tonight I am going to be sharing with you the books that I read in August. I didn't really read much the second half of the month. I've been reading the same book for a few weeks now, and it's not a bad book. I'm just, for whatever reason, having a hard time wanting to pick it up, and I'll talk more about that next month, I guess. But I had set an ambitious goal for myself because I wanted to catch up with my reading challenge, but I fell behind actually. So I didn't read as many books as I had hoped to read, but I read some really excellent books. So without further ado, let's get into it. I have 6 books to show you. The first book was a really quick read, but a very excellent read, and it is A Policy of Kindness by the Dalai Lama. What it is it's an anthology of writings by him and also about him. So it's a collection of his thoughts and his worldview, and it was super lovely to read. I'll read you the back of it. Who is the Dalai Lama, and why was he awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? Beginning with a Nobel lecture which presents his policy of kindness, this book offers a comprehensive view of his personal life, his wide-ranging interests, and his thoughts on issues of global concern. These addresses, interviews, and biographical essays reveal a highly pragmatic man dedicated to the establishment of non-violent solutions to human problems in the personal, environmental, and political arenas. An engaging picture emerges of the Dalai Lama, whose goodwill, understanding, and practicality have brought him respect from world leaders and the acclaim of millions around the world. And there is a picture of the Dalai Lama on the cover. So this book was published in 1990, so I think it came out recently after he had won the Nobel Peace Prize. What year was that? Okay, so on December 10th, 1989, the Norwegian Nobel Committee awarded the Nobel Peace Prize to the 14th Dalai Lama. So I really recommend reading this. You don't have to be Buddhist or into Eastern philosophy or Eastern spirituality in order to gain a lot from this book. I think if you have an interest in humanity and an interest in being a good person, you would take a lot away from this book. And it's super quick to get through. It is just under 150 pages, but everything you read, it leaves an impact. So it is short, but it is sweet. Very good. The next book that I read was Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. You would have seen this in one of the many book hauls I did last month. I had an excessive amount of book haul videos because I bought an excessive amount of books. I don't regret it. Oh, it smells so good. It's just one of those classic paperback page smelling books. Does that make any sense? I feel like you can kind of tell if you look at the type of paper and the way that the type looks on the page. But this was very good. This was my first time reading anything by James Baldwin, and I definitely want to read more of his work. And I especially am interested in reading his nonfiction, his essays, and I thought he had a really excellent way of creating a story and falling into a story and exploring very interesting themes. And I'll read you the back of this book. James Baldwin's first major work, Go Tell It on the Mountain, has established itself as an American classic, with lyrical precision, psychological directness, resonating symbolic power, and a rage that is at once unrelenting and compassionate. Baldwin chronicles a 14-year-old boy's discovery one Saturday in March 1935 of the terms of his identity as the stepson of the minister of a storefront Pentecostal church in Harlem. Baldwin's rendering of his protagonist's spiritual, sexual, and moral struggle of self-invention opened new possibilities in the American language and in the way Americans understand themselves. This is definitely a book I would highly recommend, and it was also a pretty quick read. It's not very long, but I think that it was really well done, and I definitely enjoyed this book a lot. Now, the next book I've already talked about because I could not contain my excitement, and it is Homegoing by Yagyazi. This book was incredible. I loved it so much. I can say confidently that this is my favorite book that I read this year. The year's not even over, but this book was just so amazing to read. Because I've read some really good books this year. I've read some books that I, would call some of my favorites. But this one just really did it for me. And it's really hard to say exactly what it is, but it was just such an excellent exploration of two family lines and an exploration through time and through space, and really powerful themes that affect us today, and kind of taking a step back and examining what could have occurred in history that set the stage for that, and how that would have looked at different points in time for different types of people. Really amazing, really incredible. I've talked about this a bit, I know, and I am pretty sure I did read the back of the book, but I'm just going to do it again for this video. Ghana, 18th century. Two half-sisters are born into different villages, each unaware of the other. One will marry an Englishman and lead a life of comfort in the palatial rooms of the Cape Coast castle. The other will be captured in a raid on her village, imprisoned in the very same castle, and sold into slavery. Homegoing follows the parallel paths of these sisters and their descendants through 8 generations, from the Gold Coast to the plantations of Mississippi, from the American Civil War to Jazz Age Harlem. Yagyazi's extraordinary novel illuminates slavery's troubled legacy, both for those who were taken and those who stayed, and shows how the memory of captivity has been inscribed on the soul of our nation. Just read this book. It's brilliant. If you enjoy historical fiction, if you enjoy family sagas, if you enjoy, following something that spans through generations, and especially something that delves into a very heavy topic, then I think you're really going to love this book. So I highly recommend it. Alright, the next book is one I was very excited to read. I've been wanting to read this for quite a while. It is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I did like the book. I did, but I think this was split up into 3 parts, maybe 4 parts. Let me see. I guess based on the synopsis, I was expecting it to be one thing, and it starts and ends the way I expected it to, but I feel like the middle section kind of veered off the course that I was most interested in, and explored another relationship, and it was not bad or anything, but I found it, I don't want to say annoying, but I was not as interested, I guess, in that particular section. I'll go ahead, I'll read the synopsis. It says, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read, written when the speaker, Little Dog, in his late 20s. The letter unearths a family history that began before he was born, a history whose epicenter is rooted in Vietnam and spans to Hartford, Connecticut, and serves as a doorway into parts of his life his mother has never known, all of it leading to an unforgettable revelation. At once a witness to the fraught yet undeniable love between a single mother and her son, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is also a brutally honest exploration of race, class, and masculinity. Asking questions central to our American moment, immersed as we are in addiction, violence, and trauma, but undergirded by compassion and tenderness, it is as much about the power of telling one's own story as it is about the obliterating silence of not being heard. With stunning urgency and grace, Ocean Vuong writes of people caught between disparate worlds and asks how we heal and rescue one another without forsaking who we are. The question of how to survive and how to make of it a kind of joy fuels this shattering portrait of a family, a first love, and the redemptive power of storytelling. I did like it overall, I will say. I really did enjoy it, but I think I would have liked it more without the exploration into the first love. I will say that part did not resonate with me as much. I was more interested in the family dynamic. But overall, it was very good. It was very good. And if that sounded intriguing to you, I definitely would recommend it. Okay, I have 2 more books, and they are related, so I will show you the next book. This was a reread, and so spoiler for the final book that I read was the sequel. But before I read the sequel, I wanted to read Call Me By Your Name by Andre Achiman. I still don't really know how you're supposed to pronounce his last name. It's funny because I really loved this book when I first read it. I found it to be so gut-wrenching and heartbreaking and super, super emotional. I really felt like I identified a lot with Elio. And now that I look back, I think I've read it twice, but I think this was the 3rd time I read the book. And both times that I had read it, I was in a particular state of mind or experiencing a particular situation, like a life situation, that I think made it easier for me to put myself into the book. And this last time that I reread it, I am in just a very different state of mind and state of being than I was whenever I had previously read it or first read it. And I think that made a difference, and that's really surprising to me. I mean, I still definitely enjoyed it. I still think that there's some really beautiful writing in here. But I did not enjoy it as much as I had before. And I also wonder how much of that might be because my opinion of the relationship and the dynamic between Oliver and Elio has changed. When I first read it, I'll be really honest with you, I was not that disturbed by the gap between them. There's not only an age gap, but there's also like just kind of a difference in power, I would say. And I think part of that is inherent to the level of the age gap, because it's not that the age gap is so big, it's the fact that Elio is 17 and Oliver he's a graduate student, so, he's older than 22. He's like 22 to 24 or so. And it wasn't even that long ago when I first read this book. I think it was 2018 when I read the book. But I don't know what really changed. I don't know if it was just hearing other people's opinions, and honestly that could be it. I will say one thing about me personally is I don't want to say I'm easily swayed, but if someone makes a compelling argument, if they see something in a different perspective that I hadn't seen or hadn't experienced, but it makes sense to me, then I can't help but to, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't just ignore it. That doesn't just pass through me. It's something I kind of take on. So I think, for whatever reason, I didn't find it as disturbing. And not that I necessarily found it disturbing the second time around. Sorry, I have a mosquito bite on my cheek, and it's really itchy. Oh my god. So I'm getting distracted. But not that I found it disturbing, but I think I was just more aware of how skeevy it was, in terms of Oliver. And I think, and I don't want to like defend people who I would maybe call predatory. I don't know that I would necessarily call him predatory. I feel like he was very aware of the mismatch between them, because not only is he older, he's an adult, and Elio is he's an adolescent, but he also Oliver is Elio's father's graduate assistant. So it's just, that's odd. I don't know, it's fucking weird, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like Armie Hammer has tainted this, even though Armie Hammer has nothing to do with this book. He has absolutely nothing to do with this book, but I can't help but mingle Armie Hammer, the actor, and the character of Oliver, because I watched the film after I had read the book, but I had already, like, I bought the book because I had seen the trailer for the movie, and clearly, this is the book covers the film poster, so in my mind, they are kind of linked. And, I had a thing for Armie Hammer. I think he's an attractive man, but that admiration quickly goes away when you see how skeevy a person is. So it was just interesting reading it this time around. I wouldn't say it was disappointing, just that it was interesting to see how things can change or evolve, because I think sometimes it can be really easy to assume that your tastes or preferences or likes or dislikes are static and they don't change, especially once you get past a certain age. Like, I think we all expect our preferences to change in our adolescence or early adulthood, and I'm still young, but I tend to feel like things stay the same more for me, and this was a recent example of that not being the case. I'm still a fan of the book. I still like the book. I really do. And like I said, I think the writing is good. I like the writing. I like the story. I still love the ending of it. I still would say I love the book, but not as fervently as maybe I would have said that before. And so that leads me into Find Me, which is the sequel, and this book is such a pointless sequel. As a standalone book, I do not like the first part of it. It's so, I don't understand. I really just don't understand the point of it at all. The second part, so the first part is following Elio's father. Did not care for it. The second part, which follows an adult Oliver, was not bad at all and would have been fine as its own story, but to me it didn't really fit well with its predecessor, and I didn't like the ending. I feel like it took away from the beauty of this ending. So overall, this book was disappointing. And I guess the good thing is that I had heard similar things. I've heard that the people say that the sequel was not great. So I had really low expectations going into it. I had hoped I would have liked it more, but I felt like, just based on how other people reacted to it, I felt like I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. And sequels are hard, especially when a story wraps itself up so elegantly. And I really felt like the ending was so solid, and I feel like he shot himself in the foot, because in this ending, like the first ending is so good, and then it carries on a bit, and it really just feels like it wraps it up so well. And this completely took that and I don't know, disregarded it, I guess, is how I felt. So, I mean, the writing itself, especially the second part, I really enjoyed. The first part, I don't want to spoil anything. It starts very early, and I was really confused. It was not at all what I was expecting. So the character that Elio's father, his name is Samuel. I don't think they mention that in this book, but the character that Samuel meets was not the character I was expecting him to meet, just based on the conversation he had with Elio here. And I didn't care for that character, and I didn't care for their story at all. It was just, I really didn't like it. So that was that. I would be curious, though, if you had read it and you liked it. I would be really curious to see why you liked it, and how you felt about the first part, because I had a very strong reaction of distaste to it. That is that. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to let me know what books you read this month, or what books you read lately. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and real quickly, for the end of this video, I want to acknowledge the fact that in the month of August, it's not September, but last month, at the end of last month, I hit my 1 year with this channel, Ultramarine, and it's crazy. This year went by so fast, and I am so pleased to still be making videos. I definitely had a bit of a slump for a few months towards the beginning of this year, but if you have stuck around since then, truly thank you so much. And if you're newer, welcome. I'm very happy that you are watching this, and if you're subscribed, I'm very happy for you to have subscribed to the channel, and I really appreciate all the comments. That's my favorite part about making these videos, honestly, is just to see what other people have to say. So thank you everyone who leaves a comment, and especially thank you for those that really engage further. I really do love that. I am very big on human connection, and I think I talk about that a bit, so it's probably not a surprise to hear, but I hope that you feel it too from your end, because I do try to respond to comments, so thank you very much. And I always feel weird saying this, but if you're not subscribed, please do. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me, and if I could give back in any way, provide any type of comfort or enjoyment or escape, whatever, that honestly does make me very happy. So I hope that you are taking care. I hope that if you've been having a blah stretch of months this year, because I think a lot of us have, I really hope that things are getting better. I hope you're coming out of that. And if you're not, that's okay. I hope you know that this is just a moment in time, and it will pass. Alright, enough rambling. I will see you. I will see you in the next